Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flick Show. My name is Chris Wong. Yes, I'm starting off with the tinfoil hat, but I'm not going to wear this whole thing because it is hot, but just want to let you know what kind of video this is. Yes, this is a Saturday, so this is going to be the editorial of sorts. But has been some information that has come out, not out in the media or anything like that, but it is interesting. Now, yes, we are going to talk about the Snyder Cut. A lot of you want me to talk about the Snyder Cut and about some developments that happened today, which is very interesting. I mean, we'll start off with this. Wizard World happened this weekend, and as you know, or maybe you don't know, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, and Ray Fisher were at Wizard World. Now, there's this gentleman by name of Jason LeBoy. He does photography. He's on Vero. He does Vero photography. So he does this. He has these little projects he has, and one of them is with Ray Fisher. He even posted on Vero that he has a little project with him, and so that is really his opportunity to maybe talk about the Snyder Cut. Talk about maybe does it exist or not. And he did play really coy about it. Now, he did kind of ask the burning questions, like he said. He asked the burning questions that all DCEU fans or Zack Snyder fans want to know: is there a Snyder Cut, or somewhere along that line? And Ray Fisher apparently gave him an answer. Of course, he did not want to say what that answer was. He said he didn't want to. He wanted to keep that private. So that to me is saying it's not a no. Take that for what you will, but it's not an exact no. I think because the popular opinion right now outside of our fandom is that the Zack Snyder Cut does not exist. You guys are crazy. The Tooth Fairy is more real than the Snyder Cut, apparently, is what Mario Robles' sources have told him on the El Fanboy podcast. So there is that. So Jason LeBoy worked with Ray Fisher and Ezra Miller, and then there's a lot of time probably to talk about more about that off the record, off the camera. And he mentioned one huge thing, which is just one word, and that is that. Let me get to that. Well, the fans did not ask. Apparently, did not ask about the Snyder Cut during that Justice League panel, but off the camera they have asked them before, upon signing autographs and stuff, and they said, they're not at liberty to say whether the Snyder Cut exists or when the Snyder Cut's coming out. Not at liberty to say. The simplest answer, most of these people who want the disinformation, or people who just wants to get it over with, or if there's no existence of such a cut or things like that, would have just been no. No, it does not exist. No, stop asking. Let's move on. No, it could have been that. But they are not at liberty to say, and so that to me is actually a positive, right? That means that there is something there that they cannot say. They cannot say yes, and they're not going to say no, because maybe it does exist, and maybe there is possible release of it later on. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But Jason LeBoy also tweeted out this, which he deleted, by the way. He deleted the other one too, because I think maybe Ray Fisher or whatever execs were there, not execs, I'm sorry, but the Warner Brothers people probably wanted him to take that off the air, or he just put it out just a little bit, and then realizing that maybe he didn't want to get this out in the public, so he deleted it. Of course, some people took screenshots. I didn't. But so he did say this. He did say Jeff Johns is the scum of the earth. And it's just out of the blue. And it was just right after his whole project thing with, I don't know if he's still probably hanging out with Ray Fisher or Ezra Miller as we speak. I don't know. But it's pretty obvious where he got that from. And I look at that sentence, and I want to look back at that, right? So I want to look back at where Justice League was. And I know I'm going back into the past. We're talking about the things that happened before, once again. If you're tired about that, I'm sorry. But So let's go back in time, and when Justice League was being made and things like that, John Berg, Jeff Johns came out. There was that article on IGN where they wanted to accelerate the hope and optimism within Justice League to get it to where they want it before getting to the sequels and for whatever movies coming out. So they really jumped in on it. They're involved with the production. They hired Joss Whedon themselves, and they cut it up and did all this time of things. Kevin Sugihara put a two-hour mandate, and so they went with that. And Zack Snyder stepped away. He probably couldn't handle the stress of being taken over by all these different parties, and that's what happened with that. So I want to say. Now, this is not just saying that Kevin Sugihara is a better person than he is. He's still kind of sleazy in the way that he wanted to accelerate this movie so he can get his bonus, but and making a 2-hour mandate just to get more tickets when it actually worked in the opposite direction. So not to say that's any better, but creatively, he was probably up there, and Jeff Johns and John Berg, Jeff Johns being the sole source of knowledge of DC. And yeah, he is. He knows these characters and everything like that. He knows what he's doing with these characters. He's created comics. He is DC, in fact. And so that's great, and that he has that. But what Zack Snyder was doing was it was a finite story, as we've already talked. It was a 5-part arc story. Jeff Johns, friends with Kevin Feige, probably had some words with Kevin Feige, like how he wants that cinematic universe. All right? Like any studio, right? They look at Marvel, they're like, oh my God, I want that. Who wouldn't? It's $1 billion, a lot of money producing, right? And so that's a grand scheme, grand scale. I want to do that. I want to do that. The problem is this little movie planned arc was already starting. And then when it starting, they're trying to take that, rip it apart, and take it out and try to make it extend it longer than what Zack Snyder really wanted to do. He really wanted that 5-part arc, and that was about it. But they wanted to go further. They wanted to, I want that Marvel. I want the Kevin Feige of the world to be in charge of this. And, a lot of people in the mainstream was like, oh, is DC going to be that a cinematic universe? And then, and for the most part, for people like us, we're like, oh, I guess so. But it just feels finite. It feels like he had an arc, and it is true that Zack Snyder wanted a 5-part story arc, and that was it. It was the equivalent of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, and that was it. But Jeff Johns came in here. He probably says, I know how to make these films. I know how to do a cinematic universe. Let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. I know DC Comics. He goes straight to Kevin Sugihara. Give us the power to do this. He says, all right, get your own director, do whatever you want. And so that's what happened, and he just totally ripped it apart. They were on totally different wavelengths here, right? Jeff Johns wanted that cinematic universe. John Berg will probably looked up to him and says, yeah, you're right. I want that too. Wouldn't it be great for you and me? We'd be the Kevin Feige, man. We'll be the DC cinematic universe, just like how the Marvel cinematic universe is right now. That's what we want. And so that's why they went that route. But instead of just letting this ride out, letting the story and arc finish, or making their own movie, they decided to rip up someone else's film and tried to turn it into a starter for another cinematic universe, so their own thing, right? Of course, we all see how that went, and that totally failed. And it seems like it made, Ray Fisher and Ezra and probably the stars pretty upset about that, about what had happened with that. Jeff Johns was pretty proud up to the moment the movie released, and then he went completely silent, completely dark, because I think Kevin Sugihara in that meeting says, Jeff and John, you promised me I was going to have a cinematic universe like Marvel. What happened? It underperformed. The critics' rating was totally low because, all studios look at critic ratings. It's terrible. You're fired or demoted in a sense. John Berg, you're going to produce these instead. Get out of here. Jeff Johns, yeah, but we'll still use you because you kind of know the characters, but you're now demoted to an advisory role. Diane Nelson, get the hell out of here. But we can't say fired. You're on extended leave of absence. Sue Crow, get out. It was like he went nuts because he was like, you guys promised me the Kevin Feige experience, and I never got it. And so it made the cast mad and everything like that. So I think that it's more aware now from what Jason LeBoy said, that Jeff Johns has come to the earth and how this is all turning out. The hiring of Walter Hamada and the way everything affects. And it all stems from that article that it makes much more sense, is that when Kevin Tsujihara had said, after doing all the shakeup and all that, he said Warner Brothers needs to continue doing what it's always done, producing the biggest, most diverse slate in the business. That's what made us successful. We can't do what Disney's done. It worked really, really well for them, but it's not who we are. We need to continue to create a balanced slate of all types of movies and all genres. That's after he figured out that was the wrong way to do it. Fire all these guys who promised me the Kevin Feige experience, and then let's continue. Let's do our own thing. Let's get back to what made us successful as Warner Brothers. So in that sense, we'll in a way, it's kind of hard to see where it is now, if they are really going back to where it's like little chunkets of story within a universe that could be connected, but it's not totally aware that it's connected to each other. So that's for what that could be of that. So, but it's interesting what's going to happen after this. Now, we all know about the Snyder Cut. We all know that it exists in one shape or form. It's possible people are working on it right now. It's possible they're not. But it's all possible that they're willing to release this out. Will they be willing to release this out later or not? Now, there was a guy on Twitter, and I can only call him Jack Burton because he wants to look like Jack Burton on Twitter. I think he wants to keep his identity hidden. I'm not sure. But he is the one, he revealed that he was the one that talked to Jason Momoa at the other cons, saying that Jason Momoa had seen the long cut, the long Snyder Cut. And the one thing interesting he said, quote unquote, completed cut of the film, completed cut. He didn't get to actually specify if you mean actual visuals and audio, which I think was probably not. It probably not all finished, but it's completed in some sense of the word that you can imagine the whole story from one beginning to the end. And he preferred that cut over the theatrical cut. And I've already made a video about all the different actors and the Fabian Wagner, Ciarán Hinds, all these different people, Eli Snyder, and all these people who actually had the Zack Snyder cut more than what they saw in the theatrical cut. So we know it exists, right? I mean, it's hard to say. And why would they say it doesn't exist? Okay, why would they say it doesn't exist? Now, there was at one point in time where there was so much leakage in Warner Brothers that things were going out, stories were being thrown out, negativity was being sputtered out. I think Warner Brothers has a little bit more handle on it. Look how silent Walter Hamada is. Look how silent they are in their planning and staging. And I gotta believe they are really got something planned out. They know what they're doing now. I think they know exactly what they are now, and they know what to do. What does that mean for the Snyder Cut? Does that mean the Snyder Cut is actually canon? If and when the Snyder Cut comes out, will that be canon, or they're going to go the route of saying, here's a new alternative experience for the Justice League movie. See the Justice League movie you've never seen before. That type of marketing in a way it's like an alternate cut to what is canon. So that's going to be the big thing. If the Snyder Cut, that's the big thing. If the Snyder Cut comes out, and they're saying this is the definitive edition, and then other movies will portray that same look or the same feel of it, which I don't think it would. but at least maybe have an extension of that in some sort of way that we can say, okay, they're retconning. But if they're going to come out marketing and say this is the alternative experience, alternative edition, then that means they will release it for the fans, for the hardcore fans who love the release, who wants to release the Snyder Cut, and that's it. And they know they can make a bit of money on that, and that's it. That's it for that. And make Zack Snyder happy and things like that. And of course, in the tinfoil hat world, and certain people have said that Zack is going to come back. I don't know. I hope that comes true. That'd be pretty awesome. And if that's the case, then that means maybe they do love the direction that Zack Snyder was doing and realize that, and they want him back in some sort of format, in some sort of case. But before we even get to that, at any rate, is that why are people like Mario Robles, Jeremy Conrad, all these bloggers who have great sources, Umberto, they have sources. They said Snyder Cut doesn't exist. Like I said before, they said that the Tooth Fairy is more real than the Snyder Cut. Why would they say that? Well, their sources are probably sources from within Warner Brothers. And if Warner Brothers is nailing down on how to get information out, or how much information does get out, maybe their way of doing that is not just simply saying no, but adding having disinformation, right? They're saying no, it doesn't exist. They're giving out disinformation. They're telling their people, it says, if anybody, media bloggers, anything like that, you sign an agreement, you cannot say anything, you say it doesn't exist, it doesn't do that. Why would they want to do that? Why, like a lot of people says, why would the Warner Brothers Studios not want to say such a cut exists, and if it does exist? Why would they say that? Well, I'd say the simplest theory I can ever come up with is just because there is a cut out there on a Blu-ray DVD. It was released in March. It was just released in March, right? And they're still trying to sell it. It's the current copy, the Justice League, as some people says, the Whedon cut, the theatrical cut. It's still in out there in the public. They want to sell it. They made a ton of copies. They might as well try to sell as much as they can. It would be counterproductive in terms of financing and in terms of money to say, this is a better cut out there. And the people are like, well, maybe we'll wait for that. Why should I buy that copy then? Let's wait for that. Right? They're not thinking about us who have already seen it. They're thinking for the new customers. Where's the people who didn't see it? Let's get to them first. So that's why in my thing is that they're not going to do that yet. So like Sam Parker, who had told me on Twitter that there was talks about the director of It, had said there is a director's cut coming out this year. But Warner Brothers is not talking about that because there's still an It Blu-ray DVD on the shelves that they want to sell. Imagine if the It Blu DVD rate, whatever, in just a couple months just came out. It's sitting on the shelf, and you're the customer who picks that up. You go home, you look on the TV, and there's a commercial. The director's cut is coming out in 2 months. You'd be like, crap, I better return this. I don't want this. I want the director's cut. That's the complete cut. Why am I wasting my money on that? Now, you may be thinking, well, I'll buy that too. I got so much money. Hey, not everybody's as rich as you. Maybe some people can only afford one. So that's just the simplest theory as to why I think Warner Brothers is not promoting or not saying anything about a Snyder Cut that's possibly being finished, that possibly being ready to be marketed and all. When is that going to be? My hopes is a San Diego Comic-Con. But just looking at the timeline, I'm wondering if that's even too early. I'm not sure. But if there was such a stage and platform to announce such a thing, it would be San Diego Comic-Con, right? It would be over there. And I think if that actually happens and your dreams come true, where Zack Snyder steps out and says, hey, I'm back. Guess what? My cut's coming out. That'd be incredible. That would be a dream, incredible dream come true. It's maybe possible. I'm not sure. But like I said before, the actors, the cast, possibly some of the production crew are fighting for this. They're fighting for the release of Snyder Cut. They also feel all their, I mean, that's their hard work, man. That's all their hard work. They gave it their all during the first shoot, and in order to have it taken away from them in a sense, and then not being glorified in the way in the theaters, and not having what they've done in their first shoot to be on the screen. Now that is something very heartbreaking in a sense, to have all that work done to you, especially Zack Snyder, and not be able to show that. And I think this may be a new thing in the world, maybe possibly. I just got to look at all the different times about cuts that ever been come out, but I don't think there has been ever quite a movie other than maybe the David Ayer cut of Suicide Squad that has completely changed from what it was intended to what it was that came out in theaters, right? You can say Rogue One, Solo would probably be the other one. We'll see how that turns out, but Rogue One maybe one, but I think the Rogue One story was pretty much the same from beginning to end. They're saying this Zack Snyder Cut is a completely different experience. We've seen little hints and nuggets here where Zack Snyder said Batman was supposed to arm the bat. Was supposed to arm the parademon gun, and he was probably like thinking, didn't you see that in the movie? Or we're like, no, we didn't see that. And so there's so many nuggets, so there's so many evidence here, hints here, coming from Zack Snyder, that the movie that he made is probably a completely different experience than what we've seen in the movie theaters, and maybe it's just a matter of time, right? Just a matter of time. One thing that you can get from a little bit of hope is from Fiona herself, right? She has, she knows Zack Snyder. They talk a lot and things like that. So she knows a lot too. She did say this today, and it's like really 4 hours ago. She said this: "Hey guys, I want to say what we campaigned, hashtag release the Snyder Cut tag, and whole movement made some real impact. I got feedback from multiple sources, all confirmed that. We will keep doing things like that and never give up on the matter." So thanks to the starter at Vinaldo7 again, having her say that we have made some kind of impact. There's a lot of multiple sources confirmed. That is great. I think that is interesting, and how that this whole thing that we've done in the last day or on the 17th may have had some effect. That'd be great. I mean, that'd be pretty sweet to say that we've done something. But I like to think, I like to think, and maybe I've even heard that it's already been going on. It's just a matter of time. Time will tell. Time will tell if we all come true and everything like that. But like others people said, until Warner Brothers has actually come out and said out to the media and bloggers, says, guys, there is no Snyder Cut. They haven't said that yet. They're pretty quiet, just like the actors and actresses on the record. They have not said there's no existence. So until then, we can still keep fighting for it, still keep hoping for it, and then if I learn anything more, I'll let you guys know. All right, guys. Well, anyway, have a great, wonderful weekend. I'll probably put up my Deadpool movie review maybe tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. But other than that, have a great weekend. And thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.